Guten Morgen, willkommen zu einer weiteren Folge von Beyond Singing, heute in Englisch. Hoffentlich in English. Today we're talking in English, I hope so, at least I will try. And yeah, welcome Imogen.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you? I love your dress.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's new actually. Thank you. Right now you're in Meiningen.
Yes, and mining in Germany.
Good. Did you already start to rehearse? I mean, how are things in Meiningen?
Well, I'm mostly in the chorus, and so we have a chorus concert coming up at the end of this month and then again in December. There are some shows going on at the moment, but because of being in the chorus, they're limiting the number of people that are involved in all of the shows. So it's a little bit quiet, but it's really nice to be singing again.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, we're all missing that, I think.
Yeah.
So, how did you come to Germany? You're actually from New Zealand, and how was that path? How did that happen?
So I studied a Master of Music at the New Zealand School of Music with a focus on Arnold Schoenberg's song cycle, Das Buch der hängenden Gärten. So I loved German lieder. And then I worked for several years for a management consulting company as an executive assistant to save money to be able to come over to Europe. I also worked to build a freelance career within New Zealand, working with regional orchestras and also opera companies. And I worked for 5 years as a soprano in the New Zealand Opera Chorus and also a young artist. So I understudied some roles. And then I came over to Berlin at the end of 2017 with a young artist scholarship from the Goethe Institute to study German. And then from there, I didn't really know how I would go with the market, coming straight from New Zealand rather than studying overseas in the US or the UK, for example. So it was a little bit risky to come over and look for a job. I was really, really fortunate though to have some work. My first gig was actually amazingly at the Berliner Philharmonie Kammermusiksaal, which was
Great.
joining an ensemble to sing selections from a Wynton Marsalis jazz mass, the Abyssinian Mass, and that was led by a wonderful woman called Donna Brown. When I auditioned for her, I knew that she had some sopranos already, and I was like, I'll sing anything. So I sang alto for that, and I think I got the gig because I played jazz trumpet as well. So I had sort of the stylistic knowledge there. And then from there, I sang Musetta and La Boheme with Berlin Italian Opera, and I was a masterclass artist for the Berlin Song Festival. So at that point, it was April, and I was coming down to the end of my money. So it was getting a little bit tight. And I'd set myself this deadline of the 1st of May. And at that point, I would look for an admin job. And I got a call on the 25th of April from Meininger Staatstheater, and they asked me to start the next week. So I jumped in for the end of the season for 2017-18. And I think I sang in 15 shows across 6 different operas and learnt the stagings mostly through watching DVDs. So it was a lot, which was a wonderful experience. And then I was taken on Fest from August 2018. So I currently work
Great.
as a first soprano in the chorus with a soloist component to my contract. So we perform in all sorts of operas, musical theatre, operette. And as a soloist, I've sung the roles of Yvette and Un Cantore and La Rondine. Also, I jumped in as the soprano soloist for our Christmas concert, and I've also been featured as a soloist for the Lieder Matinee series that we do. So, yeah, I'm very,
Great.
very privileged and fortunate to work at such a wonderful theatre.
Yeah, yeah, it's really beautiful. That's true. Yeah, people should go and visit actually. It's really nice.
Yes, we
Um,
miss you.
yeah. Yeah, I miss you too here. So, and I also saw that you call yourself Waldsopran because actually the television also came over to Meiningen because you were singing in the forest during COVID.
Yeah, so the theatre gave us an opportunity to record a lead for Meiningen. And so, typical Imogen, I went into the forest with my cell phone and recorded, the scenery around me while singing the coloratura for Glitter and Be Gay. And that was really fun. It was a cool way to sort of, I guess, bring a little bit of lighthearted joy around the time of lockdown. So yeah, the MDR fanzine came over to record that. So I have the Instagram handle Soprano, Forest Soprano, and I have sung a lot outside. Back home in New Zealand, I sang in 6 different productions with Days Bay Opera, which is basically operas outside on the balcony of like a beautiful house that backs into a mountain. So it's sort of like a natural amphitheatre surrounded by trees and overlooking the water. So I'm no stranger to singing outside. But I was also involved in Cuba Duper, which is an interdisciplinary festival. So we were singing opera from the rooftops and luring the audience sort of through buildings and alleyways. And we ended up singing Lakme on various different terraces and balconies of apartment buildings in the street and the courtyard. So it was a really cool way to, I guess, gather audiences that might not really usually engage with opera. And so that's something I care a lot about. And one of the reasons why I wanted to sort of put a bit more thought around my online presence was about sort of accessibility of opera, of breaking down some of those barriers that might influence how people might engage with it. So I also love the forest, and I do a lot of hiking. Like in the first week of lockdown, I walked 150 kilometers. So for me, being in the forest, is pretty amazing and a really cool way to like connect back into yourself and then into the land.
Yeah, I think the where did you do that with the rooftop thing? That's really interesting.
Yeah, that was back in New Zealand. A director called Sarah Brody put that together.
That's really great. I think something like that should be done here as well, because, you know, as you said, most of the people don't really, well, maybe they would like opera, but the fact that you have to dress up and go there, and, you know, that people are kind of, at least they expect people to be a little, how do you say that? Maybe arrogant, maybe a little, you know, sophisticated. And so most people are actually afraid of that, so they don't go to the opera. But, you know, it isn't like that anymore. I mean, sometimes at premieres it could be like that, but usually it's not like that. So really, yeah, that's a good point to bring that actually to people who don't really listen to opera, or maybe they actually do, because everybody knows, of course, like me or Baccarol or something like that, at least from the television. and actually they like that, or even when they're watching, you know, how do you say that, America's Got Talent or something like that, they're always listening to that, and people are freaking out actually. So yeah, especially now we should maybe think of ways to bring opera to people more, but in a way that we could also, you know, show ourselves without yeah, how do you say that? I mean, we did so many with a little of profit, maybe, because everything's for free, you know. And right now, especially as a freelance singer, I just see everybody's, you know, online, which is great, but most of the things are just for free. And it's a good way, you know, for people who actually want to go to the opera and, you know, see something, but the people who actually don't know the opera don't really connect to that. They wouldn't watch that or anything. So that's really, that's a nice way actually to make people listen to opera.
Definitely. And I think, for some people, they came up to me afterwards, you know, walking in the street and saying, oh, I heard you singing, and you know, I'd never heard anything like that before. So I think that's really cool too. But I noticed that you have a concert coming up where you're also singing outdoors.
Yeah. I actually already had one. I didn't post that, which was great because, we organized that because, I think we just have to sing somehow. And it was also in the garden, and we just carried our piano there. It was a piano, and then we sang in the garden, and they made little food and drinks and everything. And we had a program somehow with women's characters in opera, and that was really nice. I mean, people were so grateful just to listen to music live again, because they were like, this is so different when somebody's singing live to you and really connecting. And, you know, the point is that opera isn't really working on stream. I mean, you can watch so many things, but it's not the same effect when you listen to a voice live. It just sounds different, and it just connects totally different to, you know, each other. And yeah, that was really nice. And now we do a concert with clarinet and flute. Actually, they arranged all the arias and songs in a different way. And actually, I have rehearsal as well today for that. So that will be very interesting. It sounds really, really nice. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
That's a wonderful, wonderful project. And I think that's one of the challenges, I think, as a singer is to know, oh, I'd love to do something outside or something interesting, and how you make it work when you don't want to sing by yourself. It's amazing that you could move a piano, but that there have been arrangements with different instruments. One of the other projects that I did during COVID was with Berlin musicals. So we created a concert called Miscast Musical. So I sang 2 pieces that were originally written for male voice, and there were 10 of us, and it was a live stream gender bender review. And that was really interesting. It was the first time for me that I have ever sung with headphones on with a piano part recorded. And so I went into the forest and sat on a log with like my nice dress and then my exercise pants and sneakers underneath, sitting on a raincoat because it had been raining. Made this recording, and it was so funny just to try and get away from the hikers, because people would come and hear me and like want to have a chat. So
yes, of course, of course.
Yeah, but that was a really cool project because it was a fundraiser for Black Visions Collective and Broadway for Racial Justice. So the concert was freely available on YouTube, but then afterwards people could donate through PayPal. So that was
that's great.
Really cool.
That's great. And yeah, of course, we're all curious about your book.
Yes.
How did that happen? I mean, how did you think about this book?
Well, when COVID obviously happened, we were 2 weeks away from premiering De Vliegende Hollander, and suddenly I'm very fortunate, of course, to say I have a fest contract, so I had reasonable stability. And of course, for freelancers at the moment, my heart goes out to everyone. So, but for my circumstances, I was extremely lucky. But in terms of socially, it was pretty challenging. I had a lot of time by myself. I think I barely saw anyone for 8 to 10 weeks. But anyway, initially with the lockdown, I sort of felt like I needed a project and something that would keep me at home a little bit more when I wasn't in the forest. And so I thought for the first time I actually had some time to put into a present. It was my sister's birthday, and I was very, very homesick. So I actually haven't been back to New Zealand since I moved 3 years ago. And I had booked to go back this summer to see my family, but with COVID, my flights were cancelled, and New Zealand was advising against non-essential travel, and so I didn't rebook. So it was all a bit kind of dealing with those emotions, and I'd had this idea for a while about when I go through the forest, I often see butterflies, and it's like they're coming with me on my little journeys. And when it rains, the snails come out, so you have to be careful not to tread on them. And so I had this idea about a snail and a butterfly for a while. I'll show you a picture. This is my butterfly. Here's my snail. And so I had this idea that I could create a story for my sister's birthday. And so I just made some art, and I wrote a story that's in rhyme for my sister. And yeah, I just did a YouTube recording and sent her a link, and I got to read a story to my niece and my nephew basically via the internet. So that was really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
How old are they?
My niece is 2, so I haven't met her yet, and my nephew is 4. So I think the story might be, it's maybe designed for children a little bit older, but the idea is there. The stories that I would love to tell them as their aunt if I could be there in real life. So it's got a lot of love poured into the book. So it's about two friends on their way home through the forest. It's called Butterfly and Snail Chase the Sun, and they of course encounter various obstacles along the way, and so they have to work together and compromise, and they learn that there is no set path to navigate life's twists and turns. It's written so in rhyme with no gender binaries, so no he and she, and also no reference to fixed family structures like mum or dad. We talk about loved ones and families. And also, so it's the reading age is 6 to 8 years, and the painting style, I've got another one, it's quite abstract and bright and colourful, and Yeah.
But you started the painting before the book, right? I mean, you just started to paint actually before you wrote something.
Oh no, actually, I did write the story first. Yeah. So
Okay.
sorry, the order is wrong there. I started I wrote I wrote the story first, and then was like, this would be better with illustrations, and then started painting for basically the first time in my life. But I had done a little bit of painting a few weeks earlier just to sort of try it out.
And then did you put them online, or I mean, how did you? Because I could watch it on YouTube as well.
Yeah, so basically, I then decided to publish the book. So I published using Amazon Kindle. So my friend Shan helped with the typesetting of the book just to make it a bit more creative, and then we published online. So through the concert that I did with Berlin Musicals, I was really inspired by the fact that that was a fundraiser for a nonprofit, and so I wasn't really sure should I be publishing this book or not on on Amazon, so it's self-published, but I really wanted it to be used as a sort of way of raising funds, but also encouraging visibility of a nonprofit organization. And so,
Mhm.
looking at the situation with COVID right now, um, I kept coming back to this idea of home is not always a safe place to be. And unfortunately, domestic violence and sexual violence increases when society is under stress. So when you add things like uncertainty, unemployment, financial stress, and social isolation, particularly separating people in vulnerable positions from people who could intervene, like co-workers or friends, it's a really challenging situation with COVID. Research has described that it's a sort of silent undercurrent of this pandemic that's really important that we acknowledge and talk about. So I was sort of looking for an organisation that might be, working with women and children around domestic violence. And domestic violence, of course, occurs globally across socioeconomic and ethnic groups, but marginalised communities face discrimination. So consequently, that means that marginalised ethnic groups might experience added barriers in receiving the help that they need. And so there's an organisation within New Zealand called Shakti Community Council Incorporated, and they're working to promote the empowerment and safety and overall well-being of women and children. In their own words, they're led by ethnic people for ethnic people, and they work with, they provide services for Asian, African, and Middle Eastern communities. So some of the services that they provide are a 24-hour domestic violence intervention service, culturally appropriate refuges, legal advocacy, education programs like teaching women how to drive so that they can, look after their children, more independently. And yeah, so I really wanted to support that organization, and it was about how I could use publishing a book and creating a product as a way of raising funds, but also encouraging visibility of this organization. So all revenue from ebook sales is donated to this organization. But in order to sort of, I guess, maybe better utilize all the possibilities of the book, I wanted to make the content available online for free for people, so that cost wasn't a barrier. So you mentioned a YouTube video, so I created some bonus content, such as a narrated version with the art. So the story is freely available on YouTube. You can also slow down the pace, so that's good for language learners or kids, or so
Which is
obviously
so
I
great,
don't put
I
words
think. Yeah.
into just the illustrations. And then I also provided like some bonus content, like the sort of behind the scenes of the illustration process, like various pictures of the art as it became a bit wilder, and my rationale behind everything, as well as some things about Shakti. And my purpose for doing that was, I guess, again, so it's freely available, but also to encourage donations to Shakti, especially if you weren't able to buy the book or didn't want to, or whatever. So sorry, I then created a Go Fundraise page, so that for a few reasons, so that people could feel that they could donate to a ratified bank account. Um, so that there is transparency in the fact that I've said I'm going to donate revenue, so I'm going to donate it. I've made a donation initially, but Amazon pays out royalties on a quarterly basis. So just when I receive those, then I'll be donating through that page. But I also created some gifts, for example, prints of the illustrations or a commissioned artwork or a song from the forest. So I thought if businesses or someone would make a more significant financial contribution, then they have something tangible to remind them of their contribution to the organization. So
that's so great.
I mean, about it.
That's such a great idea, I think. And I mean, even thinking about this all and then finding this organization, and yeah, I think it's just wonderful what you just did. And because I didn't really know about that, because I just knew that you were actually writing the book, and I was like, oh, that's it's a children's book, so of course I have to look at that. Yeah. And then I was just flashed by the way that you could pace it, because I was like, oh yeah, then everybody can listen to that, even children here, or people who can't really speak English, or that's really great. And then as we talked and you told me about this, I really didn't know about the fundraising. And as there were so many how do you say that, violence, home violence, no, how's it called, domestic violence, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it really raised totally during COVID. I mean, in all the countries, especially as well in Turkey, where it's always an issue as well, but actually in every country. So this is such a great opportunity. And yeah, I mean, could you also, after the interview, could you share the link so people could actually donate?
Absolutely, yes, I can share links to all of the content that's available and the fundraising page and how to buy it on Amazon.
Yeah, that would be great. How fun, and what a good project and cause. Love the idea. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, that's really great. Do you, I would actually also like to know something more about, I mean, this is a jump now, but I just thought about that when you were talking and I forgot to ask Ben. What is the difference? I mean, how is opera in New Zealand? Is it very popular, or is it not very popular, or how is opera in New Zealand?
I mean, we have a national company, New Zealand Opera, obviously, Imogen. But it's primarily based in Auckland and Wellington and Christchurch, so 3 centres. And we typically have done around 2 or 3 large main stage operas each year, and then there are smaller projects as well and concerts. And then obviously there are smaller companies, some like Wanderlust Opera, one of my favorites, Dave Bay Opera. There are many regional operas throughout New Zealand, and there's some really amazing work of those companies around accessibility of opera for in smaller towns that may not, be able to travel to Auckland or Wellington to see these shows. So Wanderlust in particular was founded by someone who actually lived in Germany and worked over here, and she's gone back to New Zealand to have a family, and so she's sort of spearheading some of those touring things at the moment, which is really awesome. And I think, opera is quite popular, and I think New Zealand Opera does the best job it can to kind of put things out there. I mean, but in terms of scale, it's just incredibly different to Germany, where there are just so many opera houses here. There are so many more opportunities. It's
of course.
Yeah, in terms of having a career, I had to leave if I wanted to be able to sing full time. So that's a challenge too, is it's such a long way from my family and friends and support network, and you make big sacrifices when you chase your dreams. So, but it's hard to be so far away.
Yeah, and you haven't been there, you said, since 2017, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, that's really. So yeah, I really hope that. I mean, how is COVID in New Zealand right now? How are the numbers?
New Zealand has done an incredible job with their response. Jacinda Ardern, I'm a huge fan. I think she's done an amazing job. So they went into very strict lockdowns initially. For example, you couldn't travel within 5 kilometres of your house. But that was for a number of weeks, and then they had no cases for a while, and then unfortunately some more cases. But things have been very well controlled, and actually New Zealand Opera is starting rehearsals again soon for their next production, which is Semele.
Oh.
So yeah, so that's really cool that they can start rehearsing again and performing in October. So yeah, it was pretty amazing on Facebook to sort of see when we were still sort of in lockdown and wearing masks and everything, seeing friends that I have, you know, standing really close to each other and making music. It was pretty amazing for that. And I think actually a lot of the younger singers and musicians from overseas, so singers or instrumentalists, have had to come home. You know, if they've been based overseas studying, a lot of people came back. So there's some really fantastic musicians based in New Zealand currently, like a lot. And so I think people are really taking advantage of that, and it's a really great opportunity to sort of showcase the younger talent back home.
That's great. That's great. So I really hope that you can actually travel soon, and that you can see your family very, very soon. But they will probably be very happy with the book right now as well. So they have some little thoughts of you as well over there. So thank you very much for coming over and talking about this. And please share everything about the book and everything we can donate. So you know, people should really, really support. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, so people, have a nice weekend. Ich wünsche euch ein schönes Wochenende and see you next week.